Here's an example of a home that does not have a roof overhang, and this is a common architectural style for a Mediterranean design. So I received an email recently. They wanted to know how in the heck they could extend the roof overhang, and I thought that would make a good video. First up on the list, we will need to figure out how much of the roof sheathing we will need to remove. And this would all depend upon the length of the rafter, and I'll get into that in a little bit. You might only need to remove 2 feet of the roofing, and you might need to remove the whole sheet or even a little more. And then, of course, you will need to remove the fascia board. Now, there is something I'd like to point out. You could actually do some of this from the inside. You could actually remove the drywall from the ceiling or a section of the drywall, and then work below, leave the plywood on or the roof sheathing on, and then work on the inside and the outside of the house. So basically what you will start with would be some type of a rafter like this or a truss. The information I'm going to provide you with in this video should work on a truss in engineered roof system as well as a conventionally framed system with individual rafters. Next up, we will need to figure out which type of method we are going to use to extend the rafters, and I'm going to provide you with 4 examples. First thing I would like to point out is that the cantilever on the rafter that you are going to use, or the rafter tail here, should be would be 1/3 the distance of the to be just like a regular cantilever, figuring a cantilever. So if you're going to have a 2-foot cantilever, then you need to go back 4 foot minimum here. And I'm not a structural engineer. I'm just trying to provide you with something that I would be my best guess at something that would work or should work for that. But the materials that you use might make a difference also. If you have a tile roof, it's a heavy tile roof, and I've seen this before where they have 2x4s with a 3-foot overhang. That's probably not going to cut it. If you have a tile roof, you might need to go with a 2x6 or a 2x8. A wood shingled roof, a roof that's going to be lighter, using lighter roofing materials, you might be able to use a 2x4. If not, you're going to need to use something bigger. But I'm going to leave that up to you. This video is just giving you some examples of things to do, not providing you with a method that will work under all circumstances. So the ratio would be 1/3 to 2/3. If this is going to be a 2-foot overhang, this needs to go back 4 feet. So if we were to divide, if we just multiply, whatever distance you go here, just multiply it by 2 to have the distance go back here, and that should be safe. So if you're going to stick out 1 foot, make sure you go back 2 foot. If you're going to stick out 1.5 feet, make sure you go back 3 feet. And that would be from the point here. So let's go ahead and take a look at the examples here. Here I have a 2x4 that's going to nail onto the rafter or the truss. Use 16D nails, and I would imagine 16 inches on center. Staggered nailing would be good, which would be a nail here at 16 inches, another nail about maybe an inch, inch and a half from the top, 16 inches, 16 inches, and then of course go to the bottom, but start in the center. So in between the 16 inches, you're going to want to go, let's just say if you're going from here, put a nail here, the next nail 16 inches, you're going to want to go from here, start your lower nail at 8 inches. This would give you a staggered, kind of like V or W-shaped pattern. And I would imagine that would be okay also. Take a look at it from the other side. And back, give you a better idea there. This would be an example where you're using a 2x6, something larger, and then just cut a shaped block underneath it. I don't like to just, you can probably, just nail a rafter on here, and then maybe, of course, the block you use here, have the block go under. That would be fine. I think there are different methods you could use here. I've seen people just nail the rafter extension on to the rafter, and they don't put a block in here. But I think that for structural purposes and the amount of time and the cost, this is going to provide you with a pretty good method for doing this. I mean, my only problem I have is you nail something like this and then you put the sheathing on. The sheathing is going to kind of help hold this as the weight wants to push down and it wants to push this up. And the sheathing is going to kind of help with that. But once you get over here, you could actually have a separation where the rafter could sag if you didn't nail it properly or if there was too much weight. I hope that makes sense, where it could actually push down. So I think a block right here would be a good idea. View from the other side there. Next up on the list would be a rafter that would be the same size as the rafters you're using. If it was a 2x4 truss system, then a 2x4. Now you are going to have a problem if you have a tile roof with 2x4s and you need 2x6s for the rafter extension. Probably not going to work. It's probably not going to, this would create another totally different nightmare. So there are going to be some situations where you're not going to be able to use the examples that I'm providing you with in the video, because if you need a 2x6 and you only have a 2x4 here for the truss, so you only have 4 inches, let's just say the distance from here to here is 4 inches, then obviously you're not going to be able to put a 2x6 in there. This would actually require a seat cut. So you would just cut a little notch in the rafter to fit, and this would be a pretty good way to do it. If you have 2x6 rafters, use 2x6, and this would be the perfect method. This would be another method. Let's just say that you have 2x10 rafters, and that's not going to be uncommon if you have a vaulted ceiling or a cathedral ceiling. You would need 2x10 rafters, or rafters at least 9 inches thick to fit the insulation that's required nowadays, which would be an R30, or I should say a while ago. Who knows, those laws or rules could change by the time you're done watching this video. If that's the case, and you want to use a smaller fascia board, if you have a 2x10 rafter, you're going to have to use a 2x10 or a 2x12 for your fascia board. And that might not be the look that you want. And if that's the case, you'll need to cut a rafter like this and notch a rafter tail. And again, remember, these are just examples. I would imagine each one of these situations would work as long as the weight isn't going to be, as long as you don't have too much weight on the overhang. So I would imagine the examples I'm providing you with for a 24-inch or less roof overhang. Next phase of the project will be to attach the rafters, your rafter extensions, to each rafter. Run it all the way down, and again, whatever type of rafter overhang method, I should say, you choose to use, you can use, and just do a repetitious pattern there. Next up on the list, you will need to nail some blocks to brace up the rafters or the trusses and create a nice solid structural connection there. So these blocks are actually going to provide you with a few different things. They're going to keep these rafters and ceiling joists from leaning over. Sometimes they want to twist over. That's not good. I've seen them actually pull quite a bit. I've seen a 2x6 turn at least 1.5 inches. That was just unbelievable one time. So blocks are good. Now there is, and the blocks under here are going to provide you with nailing, or also for whatever you're going to use to finish the roof on the wall. If you have stucco, then you're going to have to add some stucco siding, add some siding, or you can actually put a soffit under here also. Next part of the project will be to install these blocks, and these blocks will be more decorative, but they can also prevent the rafters or the rafter extensions from twisting and turning, as mentioned earlier. Give you an idea what the connection looks like here. So we're going to have a block here that's going to be flat and or perpendicular to, or vertical I should say, to the wall, parallel to the wall. And then of course this one here will be angled. You don't have to angle these blocks. This is just a common construction method. You can put the blocks parallel to the wall also, but this right here provides you with another form of nailing the plywood, the roof sheathing too. Take a look at the bottom of the block, and this kind of will give you a finished look. And again, you're going to see more of how all this comes together in the next video or the video after that. I don't know if this is going to be a 2 or a 3-part video.